how close, if at all, were they to pulling the trigger on a Zach trade?
I don't think it got real close. They couldn't even figure out the players, to be honest. And I will say that, I've been reporting since the summer that the knock on the Bulls from outside the organization through other executives and other people around basketball is that they're really overvaluing some of the talent. And that kind of started in the summer when some teams knocked on the door about Kobe White and were shocked to hear what they wanted for Kobe White and weren't able to get something done. The Knicks are kind of doing the same thing here too. I mean, they're making Grimes sound like, he's the next coming. And look, there's a lot of possibility there. But the one that surprised people was Obi Toppin. They're acting like this is Larry Nance coming and not junior, senior. So, and the playing time and the production doesn't match how they feel about him. So I think it was two teams that kind of were feeling each other out. I think they've talked since the summer over different guys. Kobe White, I know, was talked about by the Knicks in the summer. I think they talked last night, and then I was told that they revisited it today, but they just couldn't come out with the exact players. The Knicks were going to send some draft capital back because the Knicks do have draft capital. A lot of it is protected, but still, they would have sent it back and given the Bulls some much needed draft capital. But I don't think it ever got to the point where, hey, let's even get Billy on the horn and see what he thinks about it. And I'll ask Billy about that this afternoon when we talk to him as far as was he called in for anything that got serious. But they also have to protect Zach LaVine and pretend like, we love Zach. We would never trade Zach. So I get it. It's going to be a little dance today, but we'll see what Arturas has to say.
Since January 23rd, 28 of the 30 NBA teams have made a deal. Just since the 23rd. One who didn't is Cleveland, and we know they're good. And then the other is the Bulls. Did they get close to anything in any direction, in your sense?
I don't think so. I think the closest they got, or the most intriguing thing was just at least talking about Zach. I know there's been some reports that they're married to Zach. I don't think they're as married to him as some people think. I think if the right sign and trade would have happened over the summer, they would have gone that route. But they knew they had to max him, and so they were kind of stuck with that. So, no, I know that Caruso is basically untouchable. They consider him the culture of what they are, and it's $9 million a year for that culture, which is really nice. So the asking price on Caruso was going to be a ridiculous number, which no team was going to do because they just didn't want to trade him. So I don't think they really got close to much of anything. And again, Arturas will hopefully be able to pull the curtains back a little bit on what went down and why it went down. In an hour and a half or so here. So, we'll see. But it doesn't sound like there was that much buzz around him, which was surprising to a lot of teams.
How do you think Zach is going to handle being so publicly dangled in a trade?
Well, I don't, even yesterday or Tuesday when I talked to him after the game, he just kind of has an attitude of wherever I am or wherever my teammates are, I'm just going to be me. So I don't think he knows the business of this. He's been traded once before from a place that he didn't think he was ever going to be traded from. He knows the Bulls didn't have any love for him when Sacramento threw that contract at him, and the Bulls let him go to the market and get a contract thrown at him and then matched. He wasn't happy about that. Who knows where his relationship with Billy Donovan is right now. I think they say all the right things and do all the right things because they're both professional, but I think it's been reported by multiple Bulls writers that Zach is still not happy about that Orlando game, that benching late in Orlando, and that was months ago. So, I don't think Zach – clutch sports kind of makes you a little different and kind of makes you more of a businessman than a basketball player, I think, in some instances. And when I look at Zach or hear him talk now, he reminds me more of a businessman, not a basketball player. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because at the end of the day, it is a business for these guys. But I definitely think he's changed a little bit as far as his answers and his feelings about things, and I don't really think it'll bother him one way or the other. I mean, he knows he's guaranteed money. He's got that generational money coming his way, so if someone else wants to pay it, someone else will pay it.
Joe Cowley joining us from the Sun-Times. Joe, when you mentioned Kobe White and how they've overvalued Kobe White, and here they are still holding on to Kobe White, now he's going to be a restricted free agent, and who the hell knows what's going to happen. You look at all the assets that he came in with, and he has. Hell, you can even include Pat Williams. Have they maximized any of their assets in trade correctly yet?
Here's what I'll say. And people can debate this all day, and I understand the debate side of it. I think the deal that was maxed the most was Vooch, and people will say, well, hell, that might be the worst one because of the draft capital they gave up. But the point of that is saying when the Vooch trade was done, the Bulls were a laughing stock. They were a league-wide laughing stock. No coaches really wanted to coach there, and no players really wanted to go there. And for this new front office regime to come in and say, no, we can land all-star type talent, and Vooch is an all-star type talent, and to land him, and then all of a sudden you hear DeMar DeRozan say, well, I'm coming there because Vooch and Zach are there. And then Lonzo Ball.
Hey, Joe, it's like Jason Worth to the Nationals. We get it, or like right. You announce yourself with authority and you make yourself appetizing, but it wasn't maximizing the assets. I get the benefit of doing it, but like I don't think they're good at gauging assets and making a deal. And here they are sitting out a deadline where you yourself say they're overvaluing everybody. I'm questioning them.
When you don't understand what you have in your house and how the outside market sees what's in your house, yeah, that's a problem. And so can they self-correct that this summer? Well, they're going to have to because they're not going to go over the tax line with this team. The Reinsdorfs won't. I think the Reinsdorfs will go over the salary cap and even tinker into tax for 2 straight years if they felt it was a championship product. It's not. So they're not going to go over that salary cap. And the way it plays out, and now you got Vooch telling me the other night, which he's always been very coy about contract talk, where he's like, yeah, I'd like to resign here. And he even, I brought up the Miles Turner contract, and he quickly said, yeah, Miles Turner, that's good for him, but I think people understand what I can do here. So I think he's saying, yeah, I'm going to cost you more than what Miles Turner costs.
Well, they have to re-sign him now that they didn't trade him, correct?
They have to. I would think that they have to address that in one way or the other. And then if they are, now that they got a slight feel on the LaVine market, if there is something to be moved, they have to revisit trying to move him in the offseason. I would think. Otherwise, I don't know what the hell they're planning.
Well, because Joe, that's basically how I led the show. Like and yes, you could sign and trade Vooch, just like you were talking about. They could have signed and traded LaVine, but this idea of continuity. They were the best team in the East for about 40 games last year, but they were the first 40 games of the season when, frankly, they were trying harder than everybody. And so if you're banking on that being the case next year, with DeMar being 34 and Vooch being 33 and Alonzo not having played basketball by that time in like 18 months, that would be insane to me. Like you don't think that's what they're going to sell this afternoon, do you?
Unless you see a mammoth jump in Patrick Williams, it's insanity. You're 100% correct. Yes. Unless you see this mammoth jump coming. And again, I mean, I'm not trying to pile on Zach LaVine, but the fact remains that Lauri Markkanen always played his best basketball when Zach LaVine was not on the court. And even when you watch recently, Patrick Williams seems to be playing his best basketball when Zach is sitting, or he's, the way the rotations goes. So I'm not saying it's a Zach LaVine problem, but it's a Zach LaVine problem. And so when you have that contract, you have that max contract. This has always been my fear about maxing the 2 guard who only plays one way. It never works. It's never historically worked for any championship team. It just doesn't, because you have to put too much around him to complement him and cover up his mistakes, and it's very hard to do at the NBA level. So, I'm very anxious to hear what Arturas has to say about that they do have a plan and there are things moving forward, because they may very well have a plan. I just don't foresee a very good one right now.
I think you're absolutely right about Zach, and it is a fear about maxing him.
Mango?
And without
Mango? Dave Wanstead is in for Tanny on the board.
Oh, my God. It's a little early.
God. Is he already drinking? Unbelievable.
Wow.
Sorry, Cowley. We're professionals around here, but Dave Wanstead's taking over.
I think you had to max him because you couldn't find something that you liked with sign and trade. But is his value ever going to be higher than what it is right now? Because the rest of the league is going to figure out what we all see here in year one of a max deal when he is theoretically healthy. That is not a max player. It's just not.
No, he and that's the problem. He will have value if a team could figure out that he's their third guy, but you're still bringing in that, it was a lot easier to do at $19 million than it's going to be at 38, 48, and close to $50 million the final year. So, and that's a player option year too, by the way. So they like the Bulls have an option on it. So, yeah, it's going to be tough. He's just, he's not a front man. And that's an issue, and that's I don't know how they get out of this cleanly and still compete. I don't see a path that way, and I don't even know if they get out of it and can make the Bulls fans happy with the product that's on the court, because right now even with the big wins they've had, it's a very hateable team.